Damian Lillard sees his old freestyle partner panhandling and realizes he forgot who kept him going. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today, and if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. Damian Lillard leaned back in the black SUV as it rolled through East Oakland. The city had changed, some streets shinier, others more worn, but it still carried the same sound underneath. A low beat of people surviving, building, fighting. He cracked the window. The air carried a mix of exhaust and old-school rhythm. Something about being back home made the noise sound like music. He had just left the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the new community court with his name spray-painted across the backboard. Cameras, kids, reporters, it was all love. But once the lights faded and the crowd scattered, Dame needed quiet. He asked his driver to take the long way. No route. Just drive. Then it happened. He heard it before he saw it. A rough flow over a scratchy beat. The bars were sloppy, but the pain in them snapped like a snare drum. Dame sat up. The car rolled under a freeway overpass, concrete stained with age and shadows, and there, with a bent sign and a busted Bluetooth speaker, stood a man spitting lyrics into the void. The sign read, "Still got bars. Just need a shot." The man's beard was overgrown, his hoodie worn thin. But the voice, hoarse, broken, triggered something deep. Dame told the driver to stop. He rolled down the window. He stared. "Rico?" The man kept rapping, eyes on the street, moving to his own rhythm. It wasn't clean, it wasn't pretty. But it was real. Dame stepped out of the SUV slowly. "Yo. Rico," he said. The man stopped mid-verse. His head tilted. He squinted. "Nah," he muttered, brushing hair from his face. "It's me," Dame said. "It's Dame." Rico's eyes widened. Recognition flickered, then faded. He looked down at his speaker, then back at Dame like the past was playing tricks. "I'll be damned," Rico whispered. "You really made it." For a second, the space between them disappeared. The cracked pavement under their feet used to be a stage. Every lunch break, every weekend, they'd be out here freestyling, recording with borrowed mics, pushing each other. Now one of them was on GQ covers. The other was invisible. "You remember that track we did?" Dame said, a weak grin forming. "The one where you said, 'If I fall, don't step over me'?" Rico chuckled dryly. "Guess I fell, huh?" Dame didn't laugh. "Come ride with me. Let's get food or something. I ain't no damn charity case." "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." Rico bent to grab his sign, but his hand shook. He winced. "I'm good, man. You don't gotta do this. You did what you were supposed to." "Me? I stayed." Dame's eyes dropped to Rico's sneakers, mismatched laces, soles near split. "At least let me help." Rico looked at him, finally, really looked. "You think this is about money?" "No. I think it's about time." Rico stared, unmoved. Dame took a breath and pulled out his wallet. He dropped a few $100 bills into the cup beside Rico's bag. "I'll be back tomorrow. If you're here, we'll talk. If not, I get it." Rico didn't answer. He sat back down, turned up the speaker, and started again, new beat, new bars, same pain. Dame walked back to the car, heart heavier than it had been all year. That night in his hotel, Dame didn't sleep. He sat on the edge of the bed with his phone, scrolling through old photos. High school days, blurry freestyles, footage from the rec center. Rico was always there, always the loudest in the room. Pushing Dame to rap harder, train longer, dream bigger. He was the one who said, "If one of us gets out, don't forget the other." And here he was, forgotten. Dame found one of their old tracks. Grainy, unmastered, full of hunger. He put in earbuds and closed his eyes. Rico's voice came in strong. "Stuck in the mud, but I'll bloom where I'm planted. You ballin' now, but I held you when you was stranded. I ain't bitter, I'm battered, bruised, and abandoned. But when you see me fallin', know I once had standards. Dame let it play 3 times before finally getting up. He opened the minibar, poured water, and sat by the window overlooking the city. The court they named after him was 5 blocks away. The real story of how he got here sat under the freeway. He pulled up his notes app and started typing. Not a song. Not a tweet. Just words. For himself. Sometimes you don't see who held you up until they're on the ground. The next morning, Dame went back. Same spot. Rico wasn't there. Just the wind. The speaker was gone, the sign folded. Dame stood there for a minute. Maybe Rico dipped. Maybe he didn't want help. Maybe he just didn't want to be seen anymore. Dame turned to leave, but noticed something wedged into the concrete post. A folded piece of lined paper. He pulled it out and opened it. You got bars. I got battle scars. But if you really remember me, find the track where I told the truth. No signature. Just that. Back at the hotel, Dame dug through his old laptop. He had hundreds of files from back then, unreleased verses, freestyles, battles, and parking lots. He found one labeled truthrico.wave. It had never been shared. He pressed play. Rico's voice filled the room. Clear. Young. Strong. I'm not the one who made it, but I made you push. I'm not the one they signed, but I signed you with a hook. I'm not the face on TV, but I was the first fan. So if you go and fly, just remember who ran. Beside you, behind you, never beneath. I gave you bars from the basement while you chased dreams in the suite. So if I fade, don't cry, just spit one for me. Not for the camera, just quietly. Dame sat frozen. Then he hit record. No studio. No beat. Just him, into his phone. Yo Rico. I heard you. I remember. The story had started again. Not in the arena, not at the top. But where it always had, under the freeway, where the world forgets to look. Damian sat in his hotel room with his elbows on his knees, still holding the phone that played Rico's old freestyle. The room was silent except for the hum of the mini fridge. He had just listened to Rico's voice pour out from a forgotten file like it had been waiting all these years to be heard again. The beat was simple, but the words weren't. It was full of the hunger they used to live on. Rico's verses were rough and raw, but he spoke like someone who knew exactly what he was saying. Dame closed his eyes and let the last line replay in his mind. Not for the camera, just quietly. It stuck to his ribs. The next day, Dame called his manager and canceled the rest of his appearances. Charity events, media shoots, he told them to push everything. Family stuff, was all he said. No explanation. No need for one. That afternoon, he drove back to the underpass alone. Rico wasn't there. Instead, 2 kids were riding scooters in circles near the graffiti-stained columns. Dame stepped out and asked, "You seen the guy who plays music out here? Raps?" One of the boys nodded. "Yeah. He left yesterday. Said he was going to the shelter on 35th, told my uncle he got offered a record deal or something." Dame almost smiled. Leave it to Rico to make it sound cooler than it was. He thanked the kid and headed toward the shelter. Inside, he found an older woman at the front desk. When he asked about Rico, she blinked a few times. "He came in late last night. We gave him a cot, but he left early. Didn't sign out. Happens sometimes," she said, shrugging. "Do you know where he might have gone?" "No idea. He didn't talk much. Just hummed to himself and wrote in a notebook." Dame looked down, frustrated. "If he comes back, can you give him this?" He handed her an envelope with a note and a business card. "Tell him it's from Damian." She raised her eyebrows. "Damian Lillard?" "Yeah," he replied. But tell him I didn't come to play hero. I came to listen. She nodded slowly, her expression softening. Back in the car, Dame stared out the window. The city moved like it always did. Fast. Loud. Indifferent. He pulled out his phone and opened the Notes app again. More lyrics came. They weren't for the charts. They were for him. For Rico. For the space between two people who used to believe the world was waiting for their sound. Later that night, Dame found the old USB drive he hadn't touched in years. Buried deep in one of his bags, it was full of their garage recordings, those freestyle sessions recorded on cheap mics and cracked software. He plugged it in and hit play. Rico's voice was everywhere. Hype man, lead, backup, producer. His fingerprints were on every track. Even the verses Dame once thought were all him? You could hear Rico in the background, dropping lines, fixing flows, throwing ad-libs. Dame leaned back, headphones on, listening to the rise that never was. He remembered one night in particular. 2008, they were sitting outside the rec center after everyone had gone. It was cold, they had no jackets, but Rico was bouncing with energy. "You're gonna make it, bro," he had said, slapping Dame on the back. "But promise me this. Don't let him clean you up so much that you forget how we got dirty." At the time, Dame laughed. Now, it hit different. He needed to see him again. For real this time. Not as a pity visit. Not as some weird reunion. But as two men facing what the dream did to them. He called a guy he knew at a local studio. Told him he needed the place locked for tomorrow night. No press. No cameras. Just a mic and a chair. The next day, Dame went back to the underpass again. Still no Rico. This time, he taped a new note to the same post where he found the old one. Rico, studio on 49th, midnight. Just me. One track. We finished what we started. Then he waited. At 11:52 p.m., the studio was dark, quiet. Dame sat alone with headphones around his neck and his phone open to lyrics that weren't done yet. Maybe Rico wouldn't come. Maybe it was dumb to even try. The door creaked open. Dame turned. Rico walked in slowly, hoodie up, notebook in hand. "I had to think about it," he said. "Didn't want to be a story in someone else's highlight reel." "You never were," Dame said. "You were the track. I just laid a verse on it." Rico gave a small laugh. "Still poetic, huh?" "Only when it counts." They stood there for a beat too long, unsure of how to start. But then Dame pointed at the mic. "It's yours." Rico stepped in. He opened his notebook, scanned the page, then dropped it and started fresh. Just like they used to. No beat at first. Just voice. He spoke about silence. About being forgotten. About holding a verse in your chest like a secret that might kill you if you don't let it out. He rapped about pride, hunger, pain, and a city that only claps when you make it out, never when you survive in place. Then Dame joined in. No hook. No bridge. Just two voices weaving through each other. One worn by time. The other polished by fame. But together, something real. The track ended with Rico whispering the same line from all those years ago. "If I fall, you pull me. If you rise, don't forget me." They stood in silence after the take. Both men still breathing heavy. "That's all I wanted," Rico said. Dame nodded. "Nah. That's just the start." Outside the studio, it started to rain. Light, steady. Cleansing. Dame didn't offer money. Rico didn't ask. They just stood under the awning, watching the street empty. Nothing flashy. Nothing for show. But it meant everything. Rico sat on the folding chair in the corner of the studio, head down, hoodie still on, notebook on his knee. The room smelled like old carpet and dusted memories. Damian leaned against the wall, silent. The mic still swung slightly from their session. You know what's funny? Rico said without looking up. That track? That felt more real than anything I've done in the last 10 years. Dame gave a quiet nod. Because it was. Rico finally looked at him. So what now? You put it on your album? Drop a surprise feature with your old homeless friend? Dame straightened up. That's not what this is. Then what is it? It's me trying to do what I should have done years ago, Dame said. Check in. Keep you close. Rico exhaled hard. I ain't mad you made it, Dame. I'm mad that you forgot I didn't. That landed like a punch. Dame didn't try to dodge it. I didn't forget, he said. I just stopped looking back. Rico chuckled bitterly. Same thing. They didn't speak for a while. The engineer returned, played back the track, and they both listened in silence. Their voices, older, bruised, still had something. The room seemed to hold its breath. Afterward, Rico stood. Appreciate the session. It helped more than you know. Dame reached into his bag and pulled out a folder. Inside was a proposal, a studio apprenticeship, housing for a year, health support, and a contract to co-write a small project under Dame's label. You serious? Rico asked, staring at the papers. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a shot. No strings. No pity. Rico didn't answer right away. He stared at the folder like it might burn him. I gotta think about it, he said, slipping the folder into his backpack. Fair enough. They left the studio together, the rain from earlier still lingering in the air. At the corner, they split. I'll be at the park tomorrow, Dame said. Where we used to spit by the courts. I remember, Rico muttered. Back when it was all verses and no contracts. The next morning, the clip leaked. It wasn't the full track, just 30 seconds. Someone at the studio must have grabbed it. Dame's voice opened it. Rico's voice followed. By noon, it was everywhere. Fans called it raw, real, the return of Dame Dolla with purpose. Blogs posted think pieces. Some praised Dame for lifting a brother up. Others ripped him for exploiting a homeless man's pain. By mid-afternoon, a reporter had found an old photo of Dame and Rico from high school. Then the real storm hit. Everyone wanted to know, who was this Rico? Where had he been? Was Dame using his past to score points? Rico saw it all from the shelter's community computer. He slammed the mouse down, stormed out into the street, walked fast without knowing where to go. He ended up back at the underpass, sat on the ground, and lit a cigarette with shaking hands. This wasn't what he wanted. He wasn't supposed to be a headline. Dame showed up 30 minutes later, out of breath from jogging to the spot. You saw it? Dame asked. Rico didn't look up. Yeah. I saw it. I didn't leak it. I swear. I know you didn't, Rico muttered. But it's out now. People talk like they know me. Like I'm just a subplot in your comeback tour. Dame sat down on the curb beside him. Let him talk. Easy for you to say. No, it's not, Dame said sharply. You think I like being called fake? You think I wanted this moment to be another damn trending soundbite? Rico tossed the cigarette. Then why do it? Because I owe you more than silence. They sat quiet again. Rico finally turned. I didn't want to be seen like this, Dame. Not like this. You weren't seen like this, Dame replied. You were heard. Rico shook his head. Nah. I was dissected. Picked apart. Nobody asked what I want. Then I'm asking now. Rico stood. I want to be more than your past. More than a verse. Then take the deal. Rico glared. And if I fail? Then you fail forward. Rico didn't speak for a moment. Then he picked up his bag and left without saying another word. That night, Dame couldn't sleep again. He scrolled the comments under the leaked clip. This verse hit harder than anything on his last album. Rico sounds like someone with real pain. Hope he's okay. Dame saving the dude who saved him. Poetic. He closed the phone and stared at the ceiling. In the morning, Rico was waiting outside the community court. He handed Dame the folder back, signed. "One condition," he said. "Name it. No press. No rollout. We make music the way we used to. Quiet. Honest." Dame smiled. "Deal." They shook hands, really shook. Like men who knew this time, it had to be different. Later that day, they walked into Dame's label office. The team was waiting, confused. Dame stood in front of them. "This is Rico," he said. "He's not here as a guest. He's here as a writer, a partner, and someone who's got something to say. So if anyone's got a problem with that, now's the time." No one said a word. Rico glanced around the room. It wasn't exactly home, but it didn't feel like exile either. He was back, but this time, he wasn't just standing behind someone else's spotlight. He was holding a mic. And this time, it was his. Rico sat in the studio's writing room, hunched over a desk with headphones on and a pen in hand. The beat looped softly in the background. It wasn't perfect, but neither was he. That was kind of the point. Every line he scribbled down came from somewhere real, but the words came slow. He hadn't written like this in years, not for real, not where it mattered. The last few weeks had been quiet. No press. No leaks. No staged photos. Dame kept his word. The studio stayed locked down, the team respectful. Rico even had his own pass, his own desk, and his name on the project board in the hallway. Still, something itched at him. One afternoon, while they were listening to mixes, Rico looked over at Dame. "You think they're just waiting for me to mess up?" Dame didn't flinch. "Probably. But who cares? Let him wait." Rico leaned back. "That easy for you?" Dame paused. "No. But I've been where you're sitting. I've had people count me out. Call me a fluke. Say I only made it 'cause the system let me through. That doesn't stop. What matters is how you respond." Rico nodded. He wanted to believe that. But the past didn't vanish just because you walked into a cleaner room. That night, they had a session scheduled to finalize the last verse for a track called Echoes, the same one they started at the midnight session. Rico came in late, eyes bloodshot. Dame didn't ask. But during recording, Rico stumbled. The words didn't land. He froze midline, stared at the mic, and yanked off his headphones. "I can't do this," he muttered. Dame stood. "What's going on? I don't belong here, man. This ain't me." "It is. You just forgot." Rico shook his head. "Nah, you don't get it. You had the structure. Coaches, team, discipline. I had noise. Street corners and chaos. You think I can flip that into something clean? You think I can just erase years of failure with a hook?" "No one's asking you to erase anything," Dame said. "I want you to use it." Rico didn't answer. He grabbed his bag and walked out. For 3 days, he didn't show. Dame tried calling, texting, nothing. The shelter said he hadn't been by. Nobody had seen him. Dame started driving around again. Same old routes. Same underpasses. Then, on the 4th night, Rico called. "I'm at the spot," he said. "Where it all started." Dame pulled up under the same freeway. Rico was sitting on the ground with his notebook, the same Bluetooth speaker by his side. Except now, he was silent. No raps. No freestyles. Just thinking. "I got scared," Rico said when Dame joined him. "I know. I thought the music would fix everything. But some days I wake up and still feel like I'm nothing." Dame sat beside him. Then say that in the song. Rico turned to him. People don't want to hear that. Yes, they do, Dame said. They want real. Not perfect. Rico looked down at his notebook. I wrote something. Don't know if it's good. Let's hear it. Rico cleared his throat. Been down so long I started calling it home. Talking to ghosts in the dark, feeling alone. I had asked for a stage, just a second chance. Not to blow up, just to finally stand. Dame nodded. That's it. That's the verse. Rico didn't smile, but his shoulders dropped. A bit of the weight let go. Tomorrow, Dame said. We finished the track. One take. Raw. Rico didn't answer, but he didn't say no either. Back at the studio the next day, the air was different. Focused. No extra bodies in the room. Just the engineer, Dame, and Rico. Rico stepped up to the mic. No warm-up. Just straight in. The beat started. He closed his eyes and let it go. His verse wasn't perfect. His voice cracked in the middle. But he didn't stop. By the end, everyone in the room was quiet. The engineer looked up. That's the one. Dame nodded. Don't touch it. No cleanup. Rico stepped out of the booth and sat down. He didn't smile, but something in him had shifted. The hesitation was gone. Later, Dame pulled him aside. There's a show next month. Benefit concert for the city schools. I'm headlining. I want you to open with that track. Rico froze. You serious? Yeah. You know how people gonna react? They'll hear you, Dame said. That's enough. Rico didn't say yes right away. But he didn't say no either. That night, Rico walked back to his new apartment, a small spot above a barbershop, paid for through the label. On his way in, the barbers nodded at him. Yo, that track was fire, one of them called. That you for real? Rico didn't know how to answer. He just nodded, went upstairs, and sat on his bed with the light off. He pressed play on the demo they recorded earlier. Let the verse roll. For the first time in years, he didn't hate his own voice. He didn't feel invisible. He didn't feel like a shadow in someone else's story. He felt heard. And maybe, just maybe, that was the start of something real. The stadium buzzed with energy. The court lights shined, the seats filled fast, and the speakers pumped out tracks that echoed across Oakland. But tonight wasn't just about basketball. It was more than that. It was about coming home. Dame stood backstage in a plain black hoodie, hands in his pockets, waiting for the announcer's cue. This wasn't one of his usual games or a concert for hype. It was a benefit show for the city's public schools, funds going toward music programs, rec centers, and the local shelter that once gave Rico a bed when he had nowhere else to go. He looked over at Rico, pacing nearby with earbuds in and a mic in hand. You good? Dame asked. Rico didn't look back. Nah. But I'm ready. That was enough. Back when they were kids, ready didn't mean perfect. It meant willing to step up even when your legs shook. And Rico's legs were shaking now. Not from fear, but from everything that led to this moment. The announcer's voice boomed across the stadium. Before we bring out Dame Dolla, we've got someone special. A voice from Oakland. A story that's ours. Make some noise for Rico. The spotlight hit. The crowd roared, not huge, not deafening, but real. Curious. Open. Rico stepped out slowly, clutching the mic like it was the last thing keeping him grounded. The beat started. The one they'd worked on in silence. The one with no big production, no auto-tune, just words and heart. He opened his mouth. Grew up in the shadow of a star. But my voice was never far. Slept in silence, dreamed in bars. Now I spit truth, not just scars. People leaned in. They listened. Every word carried weight. This wasn't pity applause. This was connection. Halfway through the verse, someone held up a sign, "I hear you, Rico." That broke him a little, but he kept going. By the final hook, the whole stadium was clapping along, some even mouthing the words they'd only heard online once. It didn't matter. It wasn't about fame. It was about presence. Rico was here. And they knew it. When the beat faded, he stepped back, chest heaving, eyes wide. Dame walked out to meet him. The crowd rose again. Cameras flashed. But they didn't hug or pose. They just nodded to each other, the way they always did after killing a verse behind the bleachers in high school. Dame grabbed the mic. "Y'all just saw history," he said. Not because he made a comeback, but because he never gave up. The crowd erupted again. Later that night, backstage, Rico sat on a crate, drinking water, still trying to process everything. A producer from a known label came by. "That was insane," he said. "We'd love to talk, maybe get you in for a session." Rico smiled politely. "I appreciate it. But I'm already right where I need to be." The producer nodded, said something about leaving a card, and walked off. Dame came over and dropped a backpack at Rico's feet. "What's this?" "Studio gear. Mic, laptop. Some good headphones. You're building your own now." Rico blinked. "You serious?" "Yeah. You've got a story to tell. No reason you can't tell it your way." Rico gripped the strap of the bag, but didn't say much. Dame sat down next to him. "You know, all this time I thought I carried the dream on my back. But the truth is, you were the one carrying me. I just had the spotlight. You had the weight." Rico smirked. "You saying I made you?" "I'm saying I didn't get here alone." They sat there for a while, just two kids from the block, no noise, no crowd, just the rhythm of their breathing sinking again. Weeks passed. Then months. Rico didn't sign to a big label. He didn't drop a surprise album or go on tour. He set up a home studio in his apartment and started a small YouTube channel called Voice of the Block. He recorded stories from old friends, rapped verses about life in Oakland, and mentored two teenagers from the shelter who reminded him of himself. One of them dropped their first single a month later. Rico didn't appear in the video, but his fingerprints were all over it. Dame stayed on his path, still in the league, still rapping when it felt right, but now, every track he made carried a little more weight. A little more real. And every time he mentioned where he came from, he didn't just say Oakland. He said me and Rico. There was one night months later when Dame showed up to Rico's place unannounced. No reason. Just two takeout bags and a bottle of that root beer they used to drink when they were broke and dreaming. They sat on the floor, eating, laughing, listening to some new beat Rico had made. It wasn't polished. But it had soul. "You know," Dame said, "this the part they never see." "What part?" "When the story don't need a comeback. Just a continuation." Rico raised his bottle. To the echo. Dame tapped his bottle to his. To the voice behind it. They didn't need more than that. The underpass was still there, weathered and loud. But every so often, someone walking past would hear a faint beat coming from a speaker. Sometimes, the city forgets. But voices, real ones, they find a way to be heard again. And this time, they wouldn't be forgotten.